There's an AI company that can bring your loved ones back from the dead. This is straight out of an episode of Black Mirror. For a monthly subscription, you can create an AI version of a loved one who's died. I heard about this on the Newsagents podcast, so let's watch it together.
You can input sufficient data into your program, which will allow people to communicate, in a sense, with their relatives who have long since died.
Yes. So you put enough information in, it prompts you, and then you can conversationally tell it more information over time in the biographer, and it virtualizes that person in their voice. And you can do this through text, or you can do this through voice into the model, and then you can have a conversation. You could ask it, Dad, what would you think of AI in 2025?
So that is Greg Matuski, who's one of the founders of Reflector. I've got a lot of things to say to this, both from my perspective as a grief coach, as well as someone who is walking my path forwards with the grief from the death of our daughter. Firstly, I can't help but wonder how technology like this will interrupt the natural process of grieving. And we live in a grief avoidant culture. We live in a culture where death's been pushed behind closed doors, where we try and encourage each other to get over our grief, to move forwards from it as quickly as possible, where there's a real lack of care and support for death and grief. Even though death will happen to 100% of us, it is so underserviced in our particularly Western culture. And where we're already running from that pain of grief, where we're numbing, where we're avoiding, I can't help but wonder if this is just going to magnify that issue. Because ultimately, any time that we feel the pain of grief, instead of sitting with it, instead of moving through it, we're going to run off to this technology. And then second up, and Lewis Goodall spoke to this in that episode of the Newsagents, we know there are scientific studies and more cases coming out about the psychosis that AI can create. How can we be sure that this technology isn't going to create a psychosis where actually we start to believe that our loved one is still here? Another thing that I'm really connecting into here, and again, it's inspired by one of those episodes of Black Mirror from the last season, where, and this was with a living person, but where she was saved by technology, but then she's reliant on a monthly subscription where the costs keep going up and ultimately they can't eventually afford it to keep her alive. Now, I can't help but wonder what would happen if you don't have the means to continue that subscription. If it's not your choice that AI version of someone who you love is turned off and disappears. I wonder what is the impact of the grief that you would feel for the death of this AI version of them. And I will caveat through all of this, I am not a therapist, I am not a psychologist, I definitely don't have the psychological data behind me. And who knows, maybe Reflector, maybe others in this space have gone into that depth of psychological analysis. And if so, I would so welcome seeing that. I'm also conscious about the topic of consent. When I think about my own inevitable death, I don't think I would in fact, I know I wouldn't be comfortable with an AI technology version speaking for me. And it's really got me thinking, with the rise of technology and AI in these spaces, how important it is to communicate our wishes at the end of life about what we do and what we don't want. I'm a bereaved mother myself. I know that want to preserve these memories. I know that actually there is a part of me that if I could have my daughter here in a technological version, there's a part of me going, why wouldn't I? That would feel really, really positive in a grief journey that has been so very, very painful. So I can really empathize with and connect with on a human level to the enthusiasm of the founders. But there is a lot that is concerning for me because I know we cannot go around our grief. The healthy way is through our grief, even through that pain, through all of the processing, through the very squiggly and confusing line as we muddle through our grief and understand what this loss means for us and rebuild our life on the other side. I know that every single step in that journey, that is essential. And anything that can give us an outlet to bypass that journey, to try and rewind time, it greatly, greatly concerns me. There are beautiful ways where we can each continue the bonds with our loved ones, where it's about understanding what feels right for us. Because as Greg shared, This is his version of how he wants a continuous bond. But there are many ways, including in the old non-technological ways, which is definitely how I'm choosing to stay connected to both my daughter and my grandfather. And if you want to explore what those continuing bonds mean for you, then head to this link right in the corner of this video, because I've got a practical video where I take you through how you can create those continuing bonds and why they are so important in our grief journeys. But I'd love to hear what you think about this, whether you're like me and you think it's a little bit bonkers, or if you think that actually this could be really supportive for you in your grief journey. Head to the comments and let me know. And while you're there, if you could just hit like and subscribe, it really helps me in my journey and my mission to get us talking about death and grief. And wherever you are in your journey, know that I and Death in the Daily are always here, and I'm sending you lots and lots of love.